Good Thursday, everyone. I want to continue to share some of my sabbatical experiences with you while I was in Israel and Jordan. And today I want to talk about Caesarea Maritime and Herodion. Both of these sites were built by Herod the Great. Remember, Herod appears in the Gospel of Matthew as the ruler of Judea who orders the massacre of the innocents, all male babies aged 2 and younger, at the time of the birth of Jesus. We visited Caesarea Maritime on February 11th. Caesarea Maritime was built on the site of an ancient fortified town. And in 22 BC, with no expense spared, Herod began building a new city and harbor. Massive breakwaters gave safe anchorage to 300 ships, and a vast hippodrome seated more than 20,000 people at chariot races. Here's a picture of the ancient aqueduct at Caesarea Maritime, and this is a picture of me, my first sighting of the Mediterranean Sea. Another place that we visited that was built by Herod was Herodion. It was a Judean fortress built during the Second Temple period, located 7 miles south of Jerusalem near Tekoa. And it's an artificial hill 2.5 miles southeast of Bethlehem, which looks like a truncated cone from a distance. Looks like that from a distance. It was built by Herod the Great at the spot where he routed his pursuers during his flight from Jerusalem to Masada in 40 BC. It was also his burial place, and he was interred there with great pomp and circumstance. Josephus relates that the fortress was erected on a natural hill, which was further heightened by debris heaped on it. Herodion required the reshaping of the hilltop and the labor of many slaves and artisans to produce not only a pleasure palace, but a fortified safe haven for the ruler. Herod wanted to be able to see Jerusalem from his palace, so he built up the hill on which Herodion was built. From the elevated position of the palace, there were panoramic views across Bethlehem, Jerusalem, and the Judean desert. A staircase with 200 marble steps led to the fortress wall, which was a circular structure defended by round towers, and within the wall were several palaces. And at the foot of the mountain, a settlement was established, and the water supply for which was brought from Solomon's pools by the means of the aqueduct. Although Herod was a ruthless leader who represented Rome and Judea between 37 BC and 4 BC, he was also a visionary and responsible for many of Israel's most architecturally advanced structures which have survived. He was responsible for, among other projects, the Second Temple of Jerusalem, the palace fortress on Mount Masada, in addition to Caesarea Maritime and Herodion. When we visited Herodion on February 15th, we didn't have time to tour the site. We only got to view it from a distance. I wanted to share these impressive historical sites because they were 2 of many fortresses that Herod had built for himself to be able to escape to in times of peril. He had several built in Jerusalem, Masada, as well as Caesarea Maritime and Herodion. Herod built lavishly. These sites brought to my mind the verses in Matthew from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. In chapter 6, verses 19 through 21, Jesus talks about storing up our treasures for ourselves. I want to read these verses from the Contemporary English Version. Don't store up treasures for yourself on earth. Moths and rust can destroy them, and thieves can break in and steal them. Instead, store up your treasures in heaven, where moths and rust cannot destroy, and thieves cannot break in and steal them. Your heart will always be where your treasure is. Herod's Herodion and Caesarea Maritime are pictures of the exact opposite of what Jesus preached and taught in these verses. Herod's palaces and fortresses were the epitome of excess and greed, built at the expense of the people he was overseeing in Judea at the time. The people's tax money was used to support Herod's extravagance. How does that apply to us today? I don't know about you, but I have difficulty with acquiring things. I have a nice condo in which I live. It's furnished with nice furniture and window treatments. I have a nice collection of artwork and bric-a-brac that decorates the inside. I have comfortable bedding and linens and more clothes than I need. I love beautiful things that make me smile, like pottery and glassware and china. But nonetheless, I have much, much more than I need. I've collected all of these things over my 65 years. And I often ask God's forgiveness for placing so much emphasis on my things, as I truly don't want to like them so much. I know in my head that if everything I own were lost in a fire or natural disaster, everything would be okay because they're just things. If that were to happen, the things I would miss most would be all the pictures I've taken through the years and those things that have real sentimental value for me. When I've gone on mission trips to places where great poverty prevails, I return with a heaping dose of guilt about the type of life I'm allowed to live here in America. I vow to live more frugally and give more generously. However, within a few months, I gravitate to the normal life I have here in America. A life with plenty of food, plenty of comforts, and plenty of just about everything. I think Jesus was teaching us in these verses in Matthew that we should work at not letting our things have possession over us. We should work at storing up treasures in heaven, which to me means doing whatever it takes to grow spiritually and righteously. What does that look like? Well, for me, it means spending time with God in Bible study and prayer. It means intentionally studying God's Word. That can be in a small group or in my own study. It means not neglecting my spiritual life, for it is every bit or more important than my physical life. I don't know about you, but during this time of pandemic, when we can't be out and about as much as before, I've been cleaning out things and finding other homes for them by donating them or giving them away. When I work at simplifying my life, it makes me feel lighter and freer than when I'm shackled with so many things. During this time of being home more than usual, I pray that all of us would remember Matthew 6:21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I want to close with a quote from Teresa of Avila, a Spanish noblewoman who felt called to the convent life in the Catholic Church in the 1500s. She wrote, "The closer one approaches to God, the simpler one becomes." May we all work at growing closer to God, not just today, but every day.